Okay. All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to our conversation tonight. I'm super excited to be here with Dr. Ingryd Lorenzana, and my name is Amanda Hinman. For those of you that I have not yet met, I am the founder and lead practitioner at Hinman Holistic Health, and I specialize in helping women over age 40 to really feel empowered when it comes to their hormone, mood, and gut health so that they can predictably increase their energy, get rid of brain fog, optimize their metabolism, and feel fantastic in their bodies. So I'm excited to be here with you and share this really powerful conversation that we're going to have tonight about how the connection between your vision and your eyesight is linked to your hormone health. And do you want to take a moment to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Ingryd Lorenzana. I'm a pediatric and neurooptometrist. So thank you, Amanda, for inviting me to share this time and energy with you. Yes, I'm super excited. I focus on optimizing the brain through the visual system. And so for that reason, I see patients of any age, whether it's a young infant, a parent with a child with developmental delays, a parent with a child difficulty in school, even an athlete who wants to optimize their game, or even someone, like we're talking about today, optimize performance in the workplace, life-work balance, and then even more senior adults who may have had cognitive neurodegenerative disorders. So anyone, and it's because the vision is so powerful, and that's what we're going to talk about today.
Yes, it's really a powerful link here and a helpful conversation. So, without further ado, welcome everyone who's here joining us live. Feel free to allow this opportunity to be interactive. Pop into the chat. I always love to get engagement. If you have questions, if you have anything that you can relate to, you can put a me in the chat. I am going to ask that we mute everyone so that we don't have disruption from just outside noise. But again, I think both Ingrid and I really do appreciate your perspective, your insight, what's resonating, what's most useful, and then we'll have time for some Q&A and some questions as at the end here as well. So welcome once again, and so glad to be here with you. We have some more people jumping in here. Make sure we let everyone in. And let's go ahead and get started. All right. Do you want to kick us off?
Sure. So we can start off with our next slide, our topic today that is going to be on vision. And so you're not imagining it. Your body is sending your signals. Your body is your vehicle of energy. And so the more you're in tune with your body, the more that you can know how to guide yourself. So you got to listen to it, right? If your eyes are feeling tired, you're feeling fatigued, you're getting good sleep, but you're still just drained, you're having trouble with managing your weight, absolutely, you've come to the right place. We're going to cover all of these types of topics. Is my audio okay, Amanda?
Yeah.
You can hear me? Perfect.
Yep. I can hear you great.
And so what happens is that we need to understand is, like with me, I'm a vision expert, but when you come to me, I don't see you as a pair of eyes. You're this whole beautiful being that's interconnected with all different types of things, and you need to look at yourself in that way. And then your doctors need to see you in that manner as well, because since we are interconnected, when one thing affects being afflicted, everything else will also be afflicted, whether it's in a negative or in a positive way. We'll focus today specifically on the role of vision. So if we can have that next slide. And so that's part of the reason why Amanda and I are collaborating here today, because I focus on that integral aspect of vision that plays into you, and then she can share with us the part of where the hormones and the imbalances have a greater depth, and then we can tie the two of them together. And so how is that, what is that connection? Well, your eyes are part of your central nervous system. And because we are interconnected, when we overwork our eyes are also tied to our nervous system. So now we're overworking the nervous system. And then we see all of the responses in our body when our nervous system is off balance. And then I can go over to the next slide. And so, yeah, so our eyes are part of the nervous system. And I like to think of your nervous system, the way I explain it is think of it like it's your personal fire alarm. It's supposed to tell you when you're in danger, just like the alarm in your home. It's not supposed to be on all the time. It's supposed to just be on maintenance and give you those maintenance types of things. And if you're ever really in true danger, it's supposed to say danger, danger, but then it's supposed to warn you, you respond, and then it shuts back off. And so when our nervous system is doing its maintenance types of things, we're in balance, everything is in harmony. So imagine your fire alarm in your house on all the time. Can you think of the chaos? Can you operate of the things you need to do in your home while your fire alarm is going on? You can't. And so you kind of give that visual of that similar type of thing happening. And so vision is a very, very big trigger because our visual system is responsible for all the information that our brain receives. 90% of the information your brain needs to operate comes through the visual system. So if we're overworking, again, the visual system, we're overworking the brain. The brain has to work harder. That sets off the nervous system. The fire alarm goes on. And then the one who pays the price is the body. And so when we're talking about what are a lot of these things, the screen, we're in a highly technology-driven society. And this is just not even just us as adults. When it used to be adults in the workplace, it's everyone. It's children. So I see a lot of children. And, today we're focusing on women, but this impacts everyone. This prolonged exposure of the light that's coming from the devices, this regulates our circadian rhythm. So our brain and our eyes are our sensors, and they're supposed to detect the level of lighting. There's a reason why the sun shines in the morning and it's bright and bold, and why the moon comes out at night and it's quiet and dim, so that our eyes can tell, is it time to wake up? Is it time to go to sleep? When we get that overexposure to the digital devices, what happens is those cells in your eyes that are supposed to help you be able to detect the difference in the variance of light throughout the day, they get overstimulated and they don't do their job. And so then in the evening, what happens is all these cells have been overexposed. They don't know, is it time to go to bed? Is it time to wake up? And so these are things that really, really impact us. And the cells are not able to then do what they need to do. Your nervous system is in overdrive. Your circadian rhythm is disrupted. And then now the cycle becomes further cascade, because now you're not going to be able to have that restful sleep that your body needs to heal and recover, so that your brain can be ready to go the next day again. And so then we are constantly working, and I am guilty as charged. I am here sharing with you, but even I do it, right? Because we get so, part of the technology is that it helps us be more efficient. And because we are more efficient, we want to do more. And so we then pile on even more, right? And so then our bodies, whether it's the posture when we're on our work or in our workplace, whether it's the hormonal or the fact that we're not moving, any of these things, is just that cascade. It just gets worse and worse. We're perpetuating the negative cycle. And so that cycle, again, the big take home today is you overwork your visual system, you're automatically overworking the central nervous system, and therefore then your nervous system gets dysregulated, and then you start that hormonal imbalance, which is the cascade. That's really, really the take home today of what will happen.
Yeah, and I would love to just kind of share and jump in here. So it's interesting as we're listening to this, just to kind of make it a little bit more interactive. Please put in the chat, like an N if this is new information for you. Did you know that your visual system is directly correlated to even your hormones because it's activating that fight or flight response, that sympathetic fight or flight response. Who's maybe been aware of this, or this is a new idea, a new recognition. Yeah. So okay. So this is, thank you. You guys are saying like this is it is something for us to really hone in, and we're going to be talking today about some strategies and how to identify for your body, especially some of the hormone cues and clues. The cool thing about the hormones is they're the messenger molecules in the body, right? So they'll give us signals and they'll show us when we need to have a little bit more TLC for our life and our body. So yeah, thank you, Ingrid. I'd just like to kind of get a little
Yeah,
bit of
yeah,
feedback
absolutely.
and see how
Yeah.
this is
And so,
resonating with people.
no, absolutely. And I think just the mini neurology lesson is that the area of the brain, so when you're staring at a computer and your eyes have to come together and keep this alignment like this all day long, 8 hours a day, the area of the brain that controls that position of eye muscles is the same area that controls your nervous system. So if I sit here in front of my computer 8 hours a day, overworking my eye muscles, I'm also overworking the nervous system. And so therefore, and then again, now I'm sitting down all day long. And then, things like, I know for me, I'll give you a personal experience. My nervous system was so much in overdrive, and I see patients all day long. I would forget to eat because I wouldn't get hungry, right? My nervous system is supposed to do the maintenance things for me. That do I have to go to the bathroom? How do my heart beat? Am I hungry? Is it time to wake up? Those are the maintenance things that the nervous system is supposed to do when it's running as it should. So I would forget to eat, but yet at the same time, I'm gaining more weight. Again, it's because I'm using other hormone imbalances to keep up with that, and Amanda's going to share that more in detail, but I am guilty as charged. So I can share it both from a personal experience as well as I see it a lot with my patients, and those are the discussions that I have. So if
Yes,
you can bring us back to the slide.
absolutely. Thank you.
Yes. And so sleep is really, really critical, right? Because it allows our brain to rest so that we have mental clarity for the next day, but it also allows our body to heal. And so, and I can, again, I'm going to share as much as I can. I can tell when I don't get my sleep, my belly gets puffy, right? A lot of us, it's my eyes are puffy. For me, I carry my stress in my belly. And if I don't sleep, my belly gets puffy. And so I got to sleep for me. And some of you, do you guys know already how you carry your stress? Some people, it's more on different parts of the area. I know for me, it's my belly.
Mhm.
How about you, Amanda? Can you tell?
For me, it's definitely in my tension in my neck and my shoulders. Like I get tight. It's almost like my muscles. It's just, it's a physical tension and strain in my body.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Mhm.
And then if we can have the next slide.
Yeah.
And so then what happens is that the longer that we do this, it no longer becomes a chronic thing. No longer it's an acute thing, but now it becomes a chronic thing. And I have patients that I can always tell either they started a new job or they started a new thing, like, oh, I went back to school. I can always tell because I have good balance of like knowing where my patients are. And all of a sudden I see something different in them. And it's that visual stress. So they're like, how do you know? I'm like, I'm a mind reader. But no, I can see where their eyes are. And I can read through their eyes and their body, how they're doing and what's new. And that's over my triggers that are telling me what's going on. And sometimes people just need someone to hear what's going on, right?
Hmm.
But yeah, it becomes a chronic thing, and then that's when it becomes other diseases. Like now we're talking about thyroid problems because I'm constantly with these hormones not being. And again, Amanda will share that with us.
Hmm.
Um, and so again, the same thing that we're perpetuating the cycle because movement, we're meant to be dynamic. Our eyes are meant to look far away, up close, everywhere. And so are our bodies, right? It keeps the biochemistry, the neurotransmitters, everything in balance. And so again, we're sitting down all day long. It just perpetuates the cycle. And then the next one, please. And then, yes, again, sleep being very, very critical. So the same thing again. And then the next one, please. And so then just like how we can have that negative cycle, we can also have a positive impact. If we know where the underlying root cause of the problem is and focusing more on that, we can do positive things on that reset of the visual system. So here's some of the ones that are more common are, one, if we're on the digital devices all the time, is the environment, making it a very pleasing environment for yourself. The lighting is also very important. Again, lighting is what helps our circadian rhythm, but even more so when we're taking in information. And then definitely having things. So the way that I say that when you're doing your job and you're staring at a computer all day long, I say that's like your visual marathon. And so just like if you go walking, you have your walking shoes, you go running, you have your running shoes. I'm not trying to sell you more glasses, but you do need to have the right tools for the right task so that you can perform in the right way. You wouldn't go running in your walking shoes. That just would not be high performance, and it also would not be very comfortable. But yeah, that's kind of what we try to do, and it's your eyes. And I don't mean to joke, but I always say, you can always walk with a fake leg, but you can't see with a fake eye. And it's because you really need to take care of your eyes. They really drive your brain, your body, and you. And so therefore, really giving them the tools that they need to do the things you need to do, and the right pair of glasses that are calibrated for that right environment is really, really important, both with the magnification that you need for that distance as well. And this is not even for just presbyopic patients. This is, again, for anyone, students, young children from the devices, light filters that also calms the nervous system, and it helps regulate the lighting a little bit better. And so I can have, and so then, yes, so we've talked about all of these, right? And taking these constant breaks. We had talked about before a long time ago, and I think this is something that people really do know about, the 20-20 rule, that you want to take a break to look far away at 20 feet for at least 20 seconds. Well, the new research says that's not enough. We really need to take longer breaks. And then even with my patients that are like younger kids, we want our kids to read, and you need to do your work. So we can't say don't look up close, but taking constant breaks to break up. So it's better to do 2 30-minute sessions than it is to do 1 whole hour straight. And so, the things that I practice, and one of the things I love doing is I love drinking my coffee outside barefoot under the sun. And it doesn't matter if it's winter or not. But, getting that exposure to the morning light. And then it's for the evening, it's really, really important. I always say, try your best to do at least 2 hours, stop digital device use at least 2 hours before it's bedtime. You want to give those visual cells the opportunity to recalibrate, to reset them, to set them going for sleeping. And the next one. And so then, yes, that can make a huge difference. I mean, just sleep alone is a big deal of you're feeling more energized physically and also having greater mental clarity so that you have the endurance to meet the next upcoming date. And I talk to my patients about this all the time, all of these different types of things that we need to talk about, both from anything that is both physically and brain driven, from those types of benefit. And then we can have the next one. And so then, yes, this is one of my patients. She came again very stressed out because she was going through testing because they thought that because her body was in so much inflammation that she might have lupus. And so a lot of the tests came out normal, right? But yeah, the more tests, because these are normal and more tests. And so then what did we do? We talked about what was going on. And I kind of just gave her kind of like a lifestyle type of modification, because that's really what we need to incorporate. It's our lifestyle. It really becomes a lifestyle. We changed her glasses. We did the 2 hour rule, sleeping. The darker the room, the better. And so I personally do wear a sleep mask. Otherwise, I know I'll have trouble sleeping. So the darker, you want to, again, shut down those cells to give them the opportunity to regenerate. And we talk about fish oils and vitamin D's is incorporating those types, again, of lifestyle things. And so a lot of people think, well, you know, what can I, my quick fixes, right? What can I do? More caffeine, more eye drops because my eyes are dry. You know, dry eyes is an indication of inflammation in your body. You know, your eyes tell me what's going on with your nervous system. They also tell me what's going on with your brain, how your brain is optimized, but they also tell me what's going on with your body. So really more focusing, if you really want results, you want to be able to do things that are more focused on the root cause of the problem. And so then these vision habits, again, if we're kind of beating a dead horse, but it's because they're really important, right? The being dynamic and taking the breaks.
Yes. All right. Before we jump into the hormone piece in more detail, I'd love to have everyone, if you get a chance, just type away, like what's one thing that's like a takeaway where you're like, okay, an aha for me, something that you want to commit to having more, maybe a prioritization in a new way, or maybe it's like changing the, you know, like Ingrid said, the 20-20-30, setting a timer. So if you are consistently looking at a screen, you're going to give yourself a reminder to take a break. What's something that's standing out for everyone, for you today, that can support your vision system and the body? Feel free to type into the chat. Let us know what's coming up for you. I love to
How
hear
about
it.
you, Amanda? What did you learn today?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, the biggest thing, it's interesting. It's like I've definitely very intentional. I have a practice of getting out in the early morning sunlight too, and being thoughtful after dark. It gets a little bit harder here in Chicago when it's dark so early, but starting to step away from the blue light, the screens in the evening before bed. But one of the things I admittedly don't do a great job, and I'm going to incorporate this in as like a habit stack with the 20-20-30, because I do, when every time I take a water break, I'm really good about getting up and moving my body, which is important, but I don't necessarily think about like looking that far off into the distance, changing my vantage point, right? It's like I go from maybe looking at the screen to going to the bathroom, but I'm not purposely looking 30 feet away, 30 feet ahead. So I think that distance, yeah, Amy's saying no screens before bed for her. Okay, and we'll come back to this, Gay. What about sleep apps? I use a sleep app with calming music. Do you want to, I don't know if you want to comment on that, Ingrid, about the idea of sleep apps with,
I use a
probably from
sleep
the
app with
light
calming
thing.
music. I think, you know, it depends on the person. If you tend to be someone who needs to hear the background, like the rain kind of type of thing, or different types of things, if that's what calms your nervous system, then I think you know your body best. So do the things that are going to calm you down.
Yeah,
Yeah, absolutely.
exactly. Yeah. All right, well, let's dive into a little bit of hormone piece and why this becomes even more prevalent, especially for women after age 40, because our body is going to change. Like our hormone levels start to shift and change and evolve naturally anyway. And so this change in hormones brings unique challenges to our visual system and to our hormone system. Like we said, during perimenopause, which is defined as up to, sometimes it can be 8 to even 10 years before you officially enter menopause. And menopause is once you've been a complete 12 months without a menstrual cycle. So think about this. Sometimes it's even in your 30s, you know, 8 to 10 years before that benchmark, if you will. We have our estrogen levels declining and our progesterone levels declining. This can affect tear production, as Ingrid mentioned, and even our vision stability. This is the age when a lot of people are like, "Oh, I'm having trouble reading the menu when I go to the restaurants," right? And they notice. um, Also, during this time, our cortisol naturally increases. So it's kind of a double whammy, because I always like to think of it as estrogen and progesterone act kind of as a natural buffer for cortisol effects in the body. And as they start to go down, the cortisol impact becomes more profound. And cortisol, as we know, is kind of nicknamed the stress hormone. It's how your body is managing and mitigating the activation of the adrenal system and the nervous system. We also, during that time in our life, often have multiple demands, right? Different caregiving for kids, for parents, careers, a whole bunch of different things happening. And this can have, like we talked about, a lot of different decades of screen exposure and so on and so forth. So when we think about why women over 40 feel it more, it's because of all of these factors. Busy life, perimenopause, hormone levels are changing, not, having different transitions and responsibilities. It's not that you're weak. It's not that you're broken. Your body is adapting. And I invite this to have a new perspective rather than thinking our body's going to start to decline, it's going to start to diminish as we get older. It's actually going to become more sensitive. And with that enhanced sensitivity raises our own responsibility, right? So with enhanced sensitivity, we get to be a little bit more tuned into our body's needs and our body's support, if you will, in order to maintain that longevity. The thing is, and I always like to share this too, is the statistics show that women in their 30s and their 40s and early 60s, what they do during those decades sets the stage for the next 10 to 30 years cumulatively. So even if it seems like a small little adjustments that we're talking about, taking the 20-20-30 break, getting outside for the morning sunlight, these small little things, when done repeatedly and just become part of your lifestyle, absolutely move the needle so that you can avoid being one of the 85% of Americans who right now, by age 65, are diagnosed with 2 or more chronic lifelong diseases. That's just the stats. If we're just doing what everyone around us and what our society shows is common, we will end up in that common statistic, 85% of people with 2 or more chronic lifelong diseases, right? So we want to support our body, which means we get to be a little bit more refined and a little bit more tuned in to these different changes and why, and make sense of it, not make ourselves wrong, but just understand why this happens. When we think about hormones, hormones are your body's orchestra, and stress throws them out of tune. They are like the messenger molecules that I mentioned. Hormones really just signal to your cells how to show up, how to engage. And they help to regulate our mood, our energy, our metabolism, our sleep, and of course, our menstrual cycle, our reproduction. And it's a cascade. This cascade of hormone connection is working in a symphony all the time. So when one area gets overstimulated, as Ingryd's been telling us, when the vision system is overtaxed and overstimulated, it's going to have this downstream effect on all of these areas of the body, including the thyroid, right, which is located in the neck, that helps to support and regulate metabolism. It's going to affect the adrenals, which is cortisol and our stress response and our immunity and our, ability to fight off infection, our ability to stay strong and recycle old cells to prevent cancer, development and things like that. So everything is affected by our hormones. I also like to give a little context of what is necessary to support hormone balance. We know that with, after like I typically say, after about age 40 for women and men, hormone levels naturally are going to start to taper off. And having said that, it's still really important that we are taking in on a regular basis, putting into our body the core nutrients that are needed to even be able to synthesize hormones. And I showed this little diagram here because sometimes people don't really stop and think about, in order for my body to be able to make cortisol or testosterone. And yes, women, we have more testosterone in our bodies than even estrogen, which is often surprising for people to think about. But we do want to maintain some testosterone because that gives you your energy, that gives you your focus and your kind of get up and go, your strength as well. So it's important for us to maintain as much as we can of these foundational hormone levels in order for the body to function at a high level. Well, if you look upstream, we need to have several nutrients in order to even be able to synthesize those hormones, things like vitamin A, many different B vitamins, cholesterol. Believe it or not, your liver is the primary source of making cholesterol. Even when we hear that people have elevated cholesterol, I often work with women where they have elevated cholesterol. And part of the reason that the cholesterol is kind of just piled up is because they haven't for years been taking in enough nutrients and thyroid hormone to develop these downstream hormones. So the downstream ones are really, really low, and the cholesterol is kind of just piling up because they are not eating and taking in adequate nutrient levels. Does that make sense? Like we're kind of get a lopsided cascade here because it's not working in a symphony. So when we think again about this axis of interconnection, it is starting with what's happening in the hypothalamus and what's happening in the brain first. This is why the vision system is so integral to supporting the nervous system. So when we think about the hypothalamus is in the brain, that's really where your thoughts and your expectations, even your interpretation of what is possible or, what's happening in your life is going to then signal to the pituitary gland, which is going to assess, okay, what's the status of our world? Is my world safe and abundant? Do I have what I need from a nutrient perspective for my body to function at a high level? Or is it pretty scarce? Because let's be honest, the foods I'm eating, or like Ingrid shared, skipping meals. I mean, for a long time when I was earlier in my thyroid autoimmune condition, I thought I was eating healthy because I was eating a lot of like salads and smoothies, which had some nutrients, but I was severely lacking key amino acids and proteins and different things, healthy fatty acids that my cells needed. So my cells, my pituitary was getting the signal that my body is lacking. It does not have what it needs. So that's not a safe signal for the nervous system. That's one of danger, of threat, right? That's going to signal down to the adrenals. Then I said before the thyroid and eventually the reproductive tissue. But I like this quote at the bottom, and I think it's important. Really, what we're talking about is brain health is so important because that's the top of the chain. And I look at through the lens of how are we thinking and interpreting and giving meaning to our life? Because you can have two people who witness the exact same experience and give it a completely different meaning. For example, I'll just tell you in my own life, I personally, when I was diagnosed with an autoimmune condition originally, I gave it the meaning that I like I don't I failed my health. Like I don't know, my body will permanently be this way. I'm gonna have to be on medication for life. Like as long as I had that interpretation and that meaning, I was gonna kind of be stuck in this powerlessness, in this fight or flight response. But it wasn't until I went back to school and had education and had some tools and had some knowledge. And then I started to see like, oh wow, actually the body is always regenerating. It's constantly healing. It's possible for me to create a whole different physiological environment inside. So this is not a permanent situation. This is a temporary situation. And you see how me just shifting my thoughts and my beliefs and my expectations about what's possible, that's going to signal to the whole nervous system a completely different possibility, right? So thinking about that quote, sometimes life is, really comes down to your thoughts. 10% about what happens to you, 90% of is your reaction to the situation, is how you're interpreting it.
And Amanda, I just want to add a little bit to that point along the lines of that quote, that there's actual neuroscience now, right? The studies of epigenetics, right? That we had these beliefs, well, I'm going to get cancer because my mom had cancer. And so now the science tells us that your genes are 20% and your lifestyle is 80%. So we do have the opportunity to create the right environment for that gene to express or not, which goes along with that great quote that you have there, and the science backs that up.
Yes, absolutely it does. Thank you for adding that. So when we think about, again, declining progesterone and estrogen, they amplify the stress response because those buffer hormones that luckily God gave them to us, during our childbearing years when we knew we were going to have a lot of different things to manage. We were looking out for, from an evolutionary standpoint, as women, we're looking out for our children during those earlier years, right? So it's kind of like we have this beautiful gift of a buffer of having these higher levels of estrogen and progesterone. But then naturally later, I look at it as like, again, maybe that's an intentional evolution because now it's time for us to put a little bit more self-care and self-prioritization on the calendar in our lives where we're really nurturing and taking care of our own well-being as opposed to looking out for children, in a different way. So, like I said, progesterone declines, which weakens the GABA neurotransmitter, which can lead to increased anxiety and restlessness. Estrogen can decline, again, linked to increased irritability, anxiety, low mood, and also mental clarity. Estrogen does play a role in helping us to maintain that kind of mental clarity and, eliminate brain fog. There are normal hormone fluctuations that can affect our eyesight, can affect tear production, as Ingrid was saying. And as we talked about, this is a compounding effect of the different aspects that affect sleep, affect our visual system of where we're looking, as well as our movement in the body. So when we get to the root cause, I think you're hearing us say this over and over and over again. What is the root cause of unwanted symptoms in our body or of blurry vision, of mental strain and headaches and all of these different things? It really comes down to the nervous system. The nervous system is the core of managing these two different kind of modes of function. The sympathetic is that fight or flight response. That's when your eyes are overstimulated. That's when the body is kind of running on, high alert. And then the parasympathetic is what regulates, I like to call it the rest and digest and heal side of the activation. This is where your body is intentionally digesting food and absorbing it fully. It's on purpose replacing cells and healing and regenerating. But if we're too much in that fight or flight, we don't have enough of the regeneration and the digestion and the absorption happening. So that really affects our overall well-being. And really, when we think about what is the root is a dysregulated nervous system, or I like to think of it as a low range of capacity. So if you think about your life, and sometimes I have clients tell me all the time, like, you know what, I can be really intentional, Amanda, when life is kind of like all calm and not any curveballs or unexpected situations. I can eat pretty healthy meals and I can go out for my walk and I can, be intentional about reading before bed, turning off the screens and just kind of giving myself a little bit of, healthy habits and healthy lifestyles. But when all of a sudden there's an unexpected situation, life happens, it throws your whole schedule and your whole plan out the door, right? Or maybe you just get really, really, caught off guard and you feel like you don't have time. You feel like you're stuck in overwhelm and have that mental loop going. This is when we lose control, which ends up leading to likely unhealthy choices. That's when we tend to skip meals. That's when we tend to, veg out on the TV or social media to kind of numb and self-soothe. It's when we tend to choose the less nutrient dense, real whole foods. We tend to kind of grab the convenience, quick stuff because we just don't have the energy to really think about planning a healthy meal, right? And there's no blame here. There's no shame because listen, I'm right there with you. I have lived this, and there's different seasons that life does become more challenging, right? And this is exactly what led to my diagnosis earlier. But what we want to think about is how can we create increased bandwidth? How can we have a wider range of capacity? One of the most important things is one of the first steps that I always teach my clients is we need to understand where your cells are depleted. Oftentimes, even people who think they're eating the healthiest of foods and really choosing whole foods, eating lots of fruits and veggies, adding in their, sometimes they even have really strict like gluten-free and dairy-free, and that's great. And that can be really beneficial to, reduce inflammation or food triggers. But if we're looking at it and your cells don't have what they need, it's kind of like trying to expect your car to go when there's no gas in the tank. So this is an example, a woman, Tamara, that I worked with. Again, she came to me really struggling with brain fog. She had put on about an extra, 10 to 12 pounds in the last 3 or 4 years. And she's like, no matter how hard I exercise, no matter how thoughtful I try to be about eating salads and having, healthy foods, I don't know what's going on. I'm just like miserable, right? She had headaches. She just was not feeling well. Well, when we looked at her micronutrient test, a micronutrient test is what tests, it's not a blood test. It's actually testing the urine to see what nutrients are actually making it inside of your cell. They actually go from the bloodstream into the cell where they're needed to have a cellular effect. It's like putting gas into the tank of the car. Well, you can see just from looking at this report, she only had 3 of them that were in the healthy range. Most of her nutrient status was well depleted. So why does this happen when she is supposedly eating healthy foods? Well, guess what? If you have a nervous system dysregulation, your body has a harder time even being able to digest and to absorb these nutrients. And likely, we're probably not making the healthiest of choices sometimes, or not getting enough of the right amounts of food in so our cells have what they need. So I like to share this super simple one-hand meal plan approach so that you can just do a quick reflection and start to think about, am I incorporating enough of the nutrients that my cells need on a regular basis to be able to have some bandwidth, some capacity, right? So, way to think about this. Ideally, 3 times a day, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, you are planning meals that have this PFFV like blend. P is for a palm-sized serving of protein with each meal. F is for fiber-rich foods. So, like a scoop, like if you were to take your hand and scoop it out, this can be things like beans are a great source of fiber, black beans, lentil beans, garbanzo beans, white beans, kidney beans, also whole grains, nuts and seeds. So like a little scoop of fiber-rich foods at each meal. Then we want to have some healthy omega-3 fatty acids. So these are things like a couple slices of avocado, maybe a drizzle of olive oil over your salad, or different nuts and seeds. So again, a little thumb size of healthy fats. And then finally, a full entire fist of vegetables at every single meal. And yes, I say vegetables, fruits are beneficial too. And does have some fiber. However, I definitely lean with all my clients into emphasizing vegetables because they tend to have a higher mineral content, still have plenty of vitamins, and they have less fructose. So there's less of a glycemic sugar impact on the blood glucose. So if you think about PFFV at a minimum 3 times a day, that's a good foundation to start to help to support your nutrient levels to get those in consistently. So again, when we think back about what's the root cause, well, first and foremost, how is my brain signaling to my body? Is my body getting the message, hey, you know what? We've got an abundant supply of what we need to operate. Do we have the nutrients in our body, right? Also, how am I supporting my nervous system? I'm going to share because we do obviously the nutritional piece, but there's also another whole element, which is how are we supporting our nervous system? How are we actually telling our nervous system to reset and to flip into that parasympathetic mode? Ingryd shared some ways earlier when you're taking those vision breaks, right? That's going to give you a break from the visual stimulation. If you stop and take breathing breaks, that can calm down and really help to take those long, slow, deliberate breaths. Again, signals the vagus nerve to shift into parasympathetic mode. But ultimately, when we think about reaching your goals, any goal that you have, if you think about what's the number one thing that you wish you could experience in terms of your health right now in the next 6 months, if you were to identify that goal and then trace backward and say, okay, I want this result. If your result is, I want to be able to sleep through the night peacefully a good 7 hours. Or if your result is, you know what? I really want to have sustained energy. I want to be able to make it through the 3 p.m. and not feel like I have to crash on the couch. Whatever your goal is, well, we got to work backwards through this pyramid. And most people go to the action. They're like, okay, what is the action I need to take to make my result happen? And that's good. That's a part of it. But before the action, we need to think about what is the way I'm thinking about that? Do I believe it's possible? Just like I told about when I had my diagnosis, at first I was in defeatist mode. I thought I just had to kind of succumb to my body is broken and it will always be broken. I had to change my thoughts and beliefs about what's even possible before I could take the action consistently and get the result I wanted, right? What precedes our thoughts and emotions, our thoughts and our beliefs is our emotions. Are we in a place where we can feel curious? We can feel inspired. We can feel hopeful. Or are we feeling exhausted? Are we feeling defeated? Are we feeling angry? Right? And what dictates our likelihood of being able to find and have those positive emotions instead of the negative emotions is what I call your nervous system set point. And this is what we do a lot of education around, like how do you increase your nervous system set point so that you have a highway to contentment and to curiosity and to hope instead of a highway to exhaustion and overwhelm and frustration. Because if we find that majority of the hours of the day you are feeling those negative emotions, that means your nervous system, the set points, are holding you back from true and lasting sustainable hormone health and vitality. So how do we reach those goals? Well, we can think about it in a different way. I always think about who are you being, then what are you doing? And that's when you put those together, that's how you will have the health and vitality that you desire. Who are you being means what is your identity? What are you believing about this? What are you thinking about this? What are your emotions around this, right? We get to do some emotional metabolism. This is the work that we do. We get to change the nervous system. We get to show your nervous system that it's safe and you do have enough nutrients, right? What are you doing? Are you learning some new skills? Maybe thinking about how to plan for those meals, maybe thinking about what are the supplements that my body needs now at the season of my life? Am I building in the exercise that I know would be beneficial? Right? So redoing. And when we think about if my nervous system is dysregulated, it's going to be really hard to do the doing things consistently. You may be able to do them a handful of times or a little bit here and there, but as soon as you get thrown a curveball, you're not going to be able to continuously take the actions, right? So this is where I invite you to take a look and see. I have been both of these, and I do sometimes go back and forth between both hyper and hypo dysregulation. But by being able to spot it sooner and see it and identify it, it makes it easier to support yourself. So I invite you to look at this as an example of what it would look like if your nervous system is hyper responsive. That means it's running an overdrive. It's been too stimulated, just like Ingryd said. Maybe it's from the vision focus. Maybe it's from something else. Maybe it's from a thought loop that you just keep reliving over and over and over an argument or a conversation with a family member that you had 2 days ago. I don't know what the reason is, but this is what hyper dysregulation in the nervous system can look like. Merry-go-round of diets, always busy, feeling anxious, being compulsive or diligent about things, trying to do it all, but yet nothing is actually creating movement or change. You're Googling everything. You feel like you never have enough time. You have trouble staying focused. Can anyone relate to this, or is it just me? Has anyone ever felt this before? Please put a me in the chat. I think it's like, yeah, I've been there. I've definitely been there. Anyone else, or is it just us two? Yeah. So
A bunch of high overachievers.
yeah, I mean, the reality is, but the thing is, women, yeah, gay. The thing is, our society normalizes this. And I think we get to have an honest conversation about meeting, and Robin saying, me too, yeah, about meeting the needs and being willing to step into loving boundaries for ourselves. And I honestly, our physiology forces us to do it because we don't have those same buffer hormones that we did when we were younger. It forces us to say, you know what, I'm going to have to kind of reevaluate some things and come up with a new approach, or maybe get some support so that I have some tools and strategy to get my body what it needs, right? But I just want to continue this. So thank you for being, sharing that we're not alone. We're not the only ones. This is what hypo dysregulation looks like. And sometimes you swing the pendulum, it was hyper, 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 and then you just like, you exhaust yourself and you're like flat out. This is what hypo looks like, is where you're avoiding doing things. You're avoiding prepping healthy meals for yourself because you just don't have the energy for it. It's hard to get started and to move and to exercise. You don't follow through, even though you know it would be good for you to do it, you just don't do it, right? Feel chronically overwhelmed, procrastination, veg out on Netflix. I gotta be honest, that's one thing I go to. Sometimes I can tell when I'm like, oh, I just want to sit on the couch and like watch a show. Then I'm like, oh man, I get to do some more self-care. I get to do some more self-care, right? These are, again, not making us wrong. Use these cues and clues as thank you gifts from your body. This is your body waving the flag and saying, hey, guess what? It's time to give me a little love and support. It's time to work with me here. These are beneficial signs if we know how to respond to these signs, right? And when we balance our hormones, clarity and energy massively return. I mean, again, like I can't tell you how many women, this is one example, a 48-year-old woman who had weight gain, fatigue, brain fog, mood swings, everything. And her body was miscued, right? Her hormones were really dysregulated. And she could see it just by the way that she was showing up and taking action or not taking action. Because it was like she constantly had this to-do list every day, but yet every single day, at the end of the day, felt frustrated and defeated because she didn't keep her promises to herself. And she felt like shame and guilt. And I just want to say that's common. We all do that because it hasn't been talked about. It hasn't really been explained in a way that makes us understand, whoa, whoa, whoa. I just had a completely inappropriate expectation for myself. And let me go back and kind of step through what's gonna set me up for success and build some momentum and get some bandwidth, get some capability because now my nervous system is working with me. Now I've got more capacity, and so I can actually move into greater wealth. So one thing I do want to gift to you is the Heal the Root Cause Roadmap. This is a walkthrough training, and it's the exact process I use to help women over 40 to increase their energy, improve their mood, and permanently release 10 or more pounds. It's like I said, it's my framework that you go to. I'm going to share that, and we'll send it out in the email with the recording to this training as well. And Ingrid, I know you had something too. I think we somehow missed that slide, but you have a vision reset, right?
Yeah, a vision checklist. Yes.
A vision checklist. So we will go back and make sure we send out both of these for you just to have resources to help support you. So thinking here, how do you know when it's time for some more support, right? I mean, at the end of the day, it's like there's so much opportunity to help you get the support you need so that you can feel energized, feel clear and feel ready and eager for what comes next in your health journey and how you're feeling day to day in your life. It's a great opportunity to see Ingrid or another neuro optometrist that you can, have in your area. If you know that you have persistent headaches or migraines, especially if it seems to come related to screen time. If you're having difficulty focusing or have blurred vision, double vision or eye misalignment, extreme light sensitivity. That can happen too. Sometimes when you walk outside, if you notice that it's like, oh man, I can't even keep my eyes open when the sun's out, that's definitely a sign.
Yeah.
Symptoms that don't, oh, go ahead. Ingrid,
So
do you want
what
to
I
jump
was
in?
gonna say is that, there's a lot of confusion in like the right type of optometrist, right? Because
Mhm.
some of them may focus on, hey, do you need glasses and are your eyes physically healthy? Which isn't wrong, that's important, but you really want to have someone who looks at the functional aspects of what's your lifestyle like, who really is involved in you as a person and who's going to look at those types of things because not every optometrist will practice that way. And so you really want to
Mhm.
look at that type of someone who's focusing more on your we call it binocular vision, your eye alignment, those types of things. A really key word to find online is a binocular vision disorder. And so optometrists that focus on that are really going to be the ones that are going to give you more of the right tools, because you might think, I'm going to go to the regular eye doctor, and then they'll say everything's fine, and you're just going to think you checked it off, but now you're going down another rabbit hole.
Well, and I'm going to speak to this, Autumn, Ingrid, because you know this from my family. So my daughters, and when they went in to see Ingrid, my one of my oldest daughters was told, "Oh, your prescription, you just need to get a prescription to read." She's in college to read because she does a lot of like reading of physics books and things like that. And I was like, let's actually look at this a little bit more. So when she went in and had Ingrid take a look, and she's looking through the functional vision pathway, really recognize that it's eye strain, and that, giving her more support with ways that we could help support with the light, spectrum things to look at, also helping her to take those 20-20-30 breaks. And then I did a micronutrient test to give her some supplements. But I do want to highlight exactly what Ingrid was saying, is that it's not necessarily always the same just going to check the box to have an eye exam and be given a pair of glasses. That's not necessarily getting to the point of, are we actually supporting the whole brain and the whole central nervous system? Yeah, absolutely. And then when to see someone, a functional practitioner and a hormone specialist, is if you have some of these symptoms like unexplained weight gain or feeling, the mood swings, the anxiety, it's definitely affecting you in a new way. It's not just situational, it's chronic and it's been persistent. Fatigue that does not seem to improve with rest, irregular or severe PMS symptoms, menopausal symptoms, sleep disturbances, anything that's going to really throw off your quality of life, then I want you to know there are tools and there are support and ways that you can have that be different for you. So when it comes down to it, it's really like taking action. And I invite you to think about, what can you do right now? What can you do from this conversation today that you can already start to support your health and your vision system and your hormones? And maybe what's something that you're going to do down the road, right? We'll be sharing, like I said, the replay. We'll be sharing Ingrid's stress and vision reset checklist, my heal the root cause roadmap that you can take a look at. You can think about eating meals that are your PFFV meals this week and beyond. Determine what next steps you need to really take your health to the next level. And I know we're coming up to the top here, but I definitely want to offer some time for some questions, some answers. Anyone have anything that a burning question or something that maybe was a new aha that came up that you want to bring forth for Ingrid and I? Feel free to unmute if you want. You can definitely unmute and just ask your question out loud, or you can type it into the chat. No questions?
Good
Well,
job.
that's good. Everyone's got everything they need. Wow, that's amazing. I love it. Okay, well, if you have questions, feel free to pop them in. Would you mind sharing with us? I always like to know, what was the biggest insight? What was most helpful or most valuable for you about this conversation today? It's really helpful for us to know what resonates, what lands, what's most useful. Okay, you're unmuting.
Right,
You're gonna share?
I'll say something, and you've said it repeatedly, and I've heard it so many times, and I'm resistant to getting off the screen, whether it's my computer or my phone. And I know that it's really important, and you stress that it's really important that I do less of it, and I know I can. Somebody on the chat said, "Yeah, I know I can do it."
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for Colette. Thank you for being
Thank you for
just
sharing.
authentic. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think
Well,
we can all
thanks
relate.
for repeating it again, and you can say it again before we get off. I know I need to
Yes.
hear it.
Yes. It's a willingness to approach and the reality is our society is built around screens and devices. It just is. And while there are so many benefits and a lot of things that we now can access that we couldn't before and can connect in new ways, it's I think it's starting to become more known that everything in life has both a positive and a negative. And while we're aware of the positive, there are also some negatives. So it's like anything, it's like the appropriate balance is what's going to serve you best. So thank you, Colette, for sharing that. Let's see. Gay says the vision impact on hormones. that was most helpful. Do you want to unmute, Gay, or anything, or add to that?
Yeah, I wasn't thinking about that part. I think very highly of Ingrid and, those of you who are thinking about somebody who does the work that she does, I would say start with her. She just outshines in what you do. And I've, gotten to see a lot of work that you've done with kids as well as adults. So Ingrid, I just have just been, always impressed to be able to listen to the events that you put together, and it was neat to hear, and Amanda, that you've, took your girls to her too. So,
Yes.
but I know that the piece that always struck me when Ingrid first started educating me was how only, like 10% of your vision is in your eyeball. And the rest of it's so much in your brain, and that's where we got to know each other, is through brain work, and so I guess it goes to show that it's just a whole body thing all over us, everywhere we are.
Yes.
So anyway, thank you very much, Amanda. Appreciate your
Yes.
contribution and you being on as well.
My pleasure.
you,
My
Gay.
pleasure. Thank you, Gay. Yes. Let's see. I think that's Laura says lots of great information. Okay, Joanne, nervous system dysregulation causes many issues throughout the body's systems. Yes. Joanne, I don't know if you want to unmute and add to that, but you're right. It's just like seeing it and sometimes being able to identify what are signs of dysregulation? How can I even know if I'm in a place of being dysregulated or not?
The one thing that I find interesting is that I looked at that hyper list, and it's like, oh my God, I'm looping and looping and looping back and forth through those. And I've been doing it for more than 5 decades.
Yeah. Yep. And you're not alone. I don't think we
No,
were ever taught to expect or to know, to recognize it.
no, people just think you're nuts.
Mhm.
Oh, she's just an anxious child. Oh, she's, just lazy. A lot of it goes back to people say you're lazy. And it's like, that's
Mhm.
always bothered me. And I really didn't fully understand why. I just felt like there were reasons why things just weren't happening sometimes. And then other times I'm in hyper overdrive.
Mhm. So what is your takeaway? Do you have one action at least in mind that you can do to support the nervous system? Because really what we're getting at is this comes down to nervous system support.
Well, right now, we had a text conversation a while back, and I'm working on the liver.
Good.
So that's coming along, and in January or around that time frame, I expect I'll be talking to you, and probably also seeking some help from Dr. Ingrid, especially for my husband.
Mhm.
But I mean, he's on screens from morning till night on weekends, and during the week at
Yeah.
work too. And he has
Yeah.
nervous system issues.
Well, now we can,
Um,
and the interesting thing about it, Joanna, and I don't know if other people can relate, but I was initially, I mean, it makes total logical sense once we see it presented in the beautiful way that Dr. Ingrid shared. But it seems because we're physically inactive often when we're looking at screens, it seems almost surprising to recognize that that is such a stimulator for the body. Because it's
mhm.
like most times when people are on screens, they're just kind of laid back watching TV or flipping through a device. It doesn't seem very taxing per se, but it's incredibly taxing on the visionary system, which is the core of the central nervous system.
Yeah, and I have to be honest, my eyes are a little cranky now, and my presbyopia did not kick in until I was 60. So I thought I was fine, no problems. But now my eyes are tired all the time. So it's like, yeah, I think I need some help here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good. Well, you're in the right place. You're in the right place. Hi, Christina. Great to see you. I know we're wrapping up here, but I'll definitely share the recording so you'll be able to
Oh my
see
God,
more
it
of
was
it.
at, okay, I'm on Eastern time. I thought it was at 8. Okay, my bad.
Yeah,
I was at
no
work.
worries.
I was at work. I
It
was at
happens.
work. I just got home anyway, so okay.
Yes, you'll be able to have the recording and get some really good insight that we shared earlier. So, and yes, Robin says I was not aware that the eyes and the hormones are related. Very helpful. Well, wonderful, ladies. I'm so glad that we were able to be here together today, and hopefully everyone got some new inspiration, some new empowered knowledge, and have um, some action steps that you can take to support your vision and hormone health.
Yeah, this was
Anything else
really
you want to
great.
add?
Thank you everyone for collaborating and sharing and contributing. So thank you so much.
Thank you to you guys.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes, our pleasure. Have a great night.
Good evening. Good night.
Bye.